Hello and welcome to another episode of Quick One Wakili Show. Today we have a very interesting guest. He runs a startup in Nairobi and he will tell us about it. Started off as a soldier, he will tell us about it, but now runs one of the most respected law firms in Nairobi. I'll invite him to introduce himself.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Nigel Shaw, Managing Partner of the ENS Kenya office.
All right. We always start with the journey to become a lawyer. So you can start as early as you feel the impact or the inspiration to become a lawyer started, probably primary school, high school, all the way through campus.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting journey. Probably started with my father, who was also a lawyer. He was a partner with Daly and Figgis, which I think is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, firms in Kenya. And because of his influence on me, I always thought that law might be the way forward for me. But that probably wasn't formed until a little bit later on in my life. So I wouldn't say it was that early. Probably once I was doing my senior school exams. Mm-hmm. And then obviously when I went to university, I did a law degree. So that was where it probably started for me.
Okay. Where did you go to primary school?
So I was at primary school in Tugoni Primary. Just here in
Limuru.
Yeah. Which was my first school, and then I went to Kenton College in Kilaleshwa.
Okay.
And then after that, I went over to UK. I was at school in UK.
Okay.
University in UK as well.
All right. Let's see. So in the UK. At which point were you in the army, and how did that transition to you going to law school?
So the way it worked was that when I was leaving school, I actually applied for a place in the army.
Okay.
And that was before university. So they gave me a place at that stage. On condition that I wouldn't enter the army until after I'd done my university degree. And in addition to that, I applied for a scholarship through the army, and I was lucky enough to be granted that scholarship, and that paid for me when I was at university. So that covered all my university fees and a lot of my university costs. Then what happened was that I did my law degree. I finished my law degree at university, and I deferred my entry into the army for one more year so that I could qualify as a barrister, and I qualified as a barrister in England. Yeah. Through the bar school there in London, and I then went into the army after that.
Okay.
So it was interesting to go into the army at that stage, because as you can imagine, I was slightly older than a lot of people, because I had actually taken a year out between school and university anyway. I then spent 3 years at university. I then spent 1 year qualifying, getting professional exams done, then into the army. Mm-hmm. When you think that some of the soldiers going into the army at that stage were straight out of school.
Yeah. So
there I was, probably aged about 23, 24 going into the army, but there were some guys in the army
18,
with
19?
me, 18, 19-year-olds.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we were all on the same course, and I went through training there. It was initially a 6 months training at Royal Military Academy Sandhurst, which trains all the officers that go into the British Army. And those skills that I learnt then, and the subsequent skills that I learnt when I was with my unit in the army, have actually helped me enormously through my career in life, because they teach you incredible management skills. They teach you phenomenal leadership skills, and I've been able to carry those through my career. So I don't regret any time that I spent out of the law, so to speak,
Yeah.
with the army. Because actually, when I was in the army, I was a soldier. I was an officer.
Yeah.
I didn't do any law at all.
Okay.
So literally for 3 years, I left the law. And then when I left the army, it was a 3-year commitment.
Yeah.
That I had, and the army, after my 3 years, kindly offered me to stay on, but I thought, I'm not sure that this is really ultimately a career for me, being a soldier, and I had a qualification then as well.
Okay.
So I didn't know what to do at that stage. I had the options of either staying in the UK doing law, staying in the UK with the army, or coming back to Kenya to pick up a career here in the law. And my parents were here, of course.
Yeah.
And so they said, come back to Kenya, why don't you have a look at it, see what you think, see if you can get a job, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Well, I did. I got a fantastic job with Kaplan and Stratton, and then I moved on from there with my law career.
Okay. So let's talk about citizenship. Of course, historical. Now you can be a dual citizen, right?
Yes.
But back then, was that the case?
So that wasn't the case in the sense that you couldn't forever be a dual citizen. You could be a dual citizen up to the age of 21. Okay. And I did hold dual citizenship. I had a British passport, and interestingly, in the back of my passport was written, "This person is returnable to Kenya," which recognised the fact that I also had Kenya citizenship.
Okay.
And when I got to the age of 21, I had to decide whether I wanted to be Kenyan or British. I selected Kenya citizenship, chose that, and renounced my British citizenship at that stage.
All right. But now you're a dual citizen.
So now I'm dual citizen, so now we're allowed under the new constitution, we were allowed dual citizenship, and I applied to regain my British citizenship, which was granted back to me, so I am dual again.
Did you practice any law in the UK?
No, I didn't actually do any law at all in the UK, so I started the practice of law when I came back to this country.
All right, so let's talk about your journey at Kaplan. First of all, did you have to go to Kenya School of Law?
So I had to do Kenya School of Law, and in those days I was exempted some of the exams because they recognised the UK qualification and some of the exams that I'd done there. So I think, if I remember correctly, I did something like 6 out of 12 of the topics. So I did that. That was my first year. But at the same time, whilst I was doing that, I did my pupillage. So the law school and pupillage were 1 year, condensed into 1 year. So I was in those days able to do the two together, which saved me some time, and then into employment with Kaplan's after that.
Good. Did you find the transition from having studied in the UK and practicing law in Kenya onerous, or how did you find it?
I mean, given that I hadn't really ever practiced in the UK as such, I didn't really know what to expect. And the law is actually remarkably similar. So the only thing that was very different in Kenya was land law. That was quite different from the English law, understandably. And strangely enough, actually, I was exempted from the land law exams as well.
I see.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Kaplan now. So you started off as a pupil. How long were you there? What departments did you work in? What were some of your best works?
So Kaplan's was absolutely fantastic. I really couldn't have asked for a better start to my career. And I was at Kaplan's for 30 years, which was absolutely amazing. I had an extraordinary good time there, and the training and expertise and experience I gained there was absolutely phenomenal. I started in the corporate commercial section doing mostly real estate law.
Yeah.
That's where my strength lie, and still lies today. The training and the seniors at Kaplan's were great guys. We had the likes of Stuart Thompson, who was senior partner when I went there. Yeah. Amos Wako was there, of course. Dr. Fredo Jambo, people like Oliver Fowler, and so on. So it was a terrific platform to get me going, and that's where my expertise lay. It was in the real estate, and that's what I did.
Yeah. Is it still the same thing you do here, or have you spread your wings?
I've spread my wings considerably. Yeah. So even at Kaplan's, it wasn't just real estate. That was certainly my strong suit. Yeah. But I did a lot of corporate law. That was on the basic side of corporate law. I didn't get into the detail of it, so I wasn't, and I would never describe myself as a corporate lawyer as such. Yeah. I don't do the sort of heavy lifting when it comes to corporate work, like mergers and acquisitions and competition law filing and so on. Yeah. But I know enough about companies to talk hopefully sensibly about them. Yeah. I've immigration law, employment law, private client work, trusts, a lot of charitable work, and so on. So I did a sort of whole raft of things rather than specializing. But yeah, as I say, if you ask me, it's probably real estate.
Oh, I see. So with 30 years at Kaplan, I want us to talk about your decision to come out and start your own farm. Talk about the ENS angle. Why did you initially start with ENS, or you started off the farm and then ENS came later? How did that happen?
So the way it worked was that Kaplan's had been actually talking to ENS for a couple of years to see if there was any traction for a possible merger with ENS and Kaplan as a whole. Yeah. For a number of reasons, that didn't work out, and then almost inevitably, I suppose, ENS approached four of us at Kaplan, saying, "Look, listen, we know that you're interested in doing a merger. Would you be interested in joining and establishing the Kenya office for ENS?" And it was a great opportunity. I was almost in the twilight of my career at Kaplan's, I would have had a great time at Kaplan's, of that I've absolutely no doubt. But it was a huge opportunity. It was an exciting opportunity. Yeah. And I thought, this would be fun to do for the last few years of my career. Yeah. So I had the opportunity there, and I thought, let's grab it and let's see where it goes.
Looking back, any regrets?
It's a difficult question. Yeah. Because obviously, I had such a good time at Kaplan's. There's always that regret of leaving a firm that you've enjoyed so much. You've got great friends there and so on. Yeah. So yes, but at the same time, on the flip side of the coin, I suppose, there's the excitement of starting something new, doing something different in your life. And also the opportunity that I had specifically was that I was asked to be managing partner of the Kenya office. Now, I don't think I would have ever been managing partner as such at Kaplan's. That would never have happened. I don't think. I mean, it might be wrong, but I don't think that would have happened. So it's all that, and the excitement that brings with it was a great journey. It's been a great journey.
All right. I've noticed you growing exponentially. Are you at a growth phase, or is there something you would want to talk about?
Yeah, certainly we are. I mean, it's amazing to think that 4 years ago there were 4 of us
Yeah.
sitting in a small room,
Yeah.
just making a start on it, and we're now 41 people
Yeah.
in this firm. We're 15 support staff, and the rest are all lawyers.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It's amazing to think that we've gone from 4 co-founding partners to where we are now, and it's been a very exciting and thrilling journey to be on.
Yeah. I just noticed you turned 4.
Yes, very exciting. We in fact had our birthday party last night, so I'm feeling a little bit jaded this morning. So yeah, 4 years, almost exactly to the day. Not quite. 1st of September would have been 4 years to the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So let's talk about your life outside the office, or outside legal practice, that is. What else do you do?
So I'm involved in a number of charities outside of the law. I thoroughly enjoy supporting those charities and providing my advice where I can.
Yeah.
And the most thrilling one for me at the moment is sitting on the board of directors of Mara Conservancy and looking after part of the Mara Triangle. That's exciting. And the other thing that I did probably 8 or 9 years ago now, I established with my wife and a few other parents a dance school.
Yeah.
And that's been fun. That's been a great journey as well, because my daughter was and is a very good dancer.
Okay.
And so it was fantastic to be able to start that little school. It now has 3 studios throughout Nairobi, and I think of the people that attend the studios, there are about 600 kids. But outside of that, because the teachers go out of the school sometimes, I mean, I think at least another 600 kids. So they're teaching a lot of kids around Nairobi dance, which is terrific.
Is it just ballet?
It's ballet. It's hip hop. It's all the other types of dance that people do these days, and. They also do shows. They do a number of shows. They did a musical show earlier this year, I beg your pardon, called Oliver, which was brilliant, but mostly dance.
I see.
So and each year, for those that are interested, the National Theatre, they put on the Nutcracker, which is showing at Christmas time every year.
I see. What's the ticket price?
For you, very cheap.
All right. So let's talk a little about our history, because I know your family has great history as far as Kenya independence and before independence is concerned. Is there something you want to talk about?
Yeah, very happy to talk about that. My grandparents arrived in this country in the 1920s and started farming initially in the Nanyuki area, and then subsequently in the Sotik area, where they started a farm there. They gradually built up the farm. That farm was subsequently sold to Sasini Tea and Coffee, and it's part of the Sasini Tea and Coffee group now. And interestingly, my grandmother on my father's side of the family was persuaded to go into politics, and she ran for a seat in around 1956, I think it was, or even earlier, 1954 maybe, where she was a woman, and she was up against a general of Winston Churchill's from the Second World War, obviously. Yeah. And she managed to defeat him. She defeated him by exactly 4 votes. So my grandmother wrote her memoirs, and we turned those from manuscript into Word format, and then we published those, and we published her memoirs in a book called Kenya Kaleidoscope,
Okay.
which is really all about her time in this country, essentially, and very interesting reading about her political career.
We'll look for it.
Yeah, please do.
Right. Let's talk about the ENS culture, juxtaposed to the Kaplan culture. What are some of the lessons you learned, and what are some of the new techniques that you're applying to create an ENS culture?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's something that I've been working on quite hard over the last 4 years since we started. The Kaplan culture was very much one of professionalism, integrity, honesty, and so on. And of course, I've taken those, and every law firm has to be built on that basis. But in addition to that, what I've done here is try to create a culture of a bit more inclusivity, so that you're at a situation where you're building teamwork, you're at a place where the juniors feel just as much part of the firm as the partners do. Now, I never felt that was the case at Kaplan's. Kaplan's was very much a place where you had a hierarchical, lockstep, seniority position, and I've tried to really sort of do away with that and bring in a slightly different culture into ENS. It's still very much one of, if we've got a project to do and we've got timelines on that, we've got to finish it. And ENS as a group certainly has a reputation of, working really very hard, driving the juniors, driving the associates to get the work done, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, once they finish a project, if they want to take the next day off, that's up to them. They're very welcome to do so.
Good. You've answered the next question I wanted to ask you on promoting a culture of work-life balance.
Yeah, it's again a good question, and it's a very difficult one. I as managing partner, I'm certainly acutely aware of not driving people into the ground, but because that's obviously no good for me, it's no good for them. So it is very much a question of finding that balance where associates are working hard, they're producing, they are learning, their careers are progressing, but at the same time making sure that work is not so hard and intensive that actually they burn out.
Yeah.
And as managing partner, it's something I need to keep an eye on. Just make sure everybody's on the same page as us, that people are not collapsing, and so on and so forth. So it is important. You're right. And as I've got older and got into the managing place, it's something that I look out for.
It's good that you've mentioned being the managing partner. Of course, coming from Kaplan, you left with 3 other partners. Hopefully, or I know they buy into your idea of creating the new culture, but was it a coincidence that you left together, or was a lot more thought put into the 4 people who actually left to form ENS?
It was a fairly quick decision. Excuse me. And in terms of the culture that we're building here, it's very much we're all on the same page around it. It's very exciting. It's a exciting thing to do. I hadn't really given culture very much thought when I was at Kaplan's. I was in a culture. It was what it was, and that was fine. But since I left, got the opportunity to start a new office, it's certainly something that I've given a lot of thought to and really enjoyed gives me a lot of excitement to build a culture and a new firm. Yeah.
You have more partners now. You left us for, but there are a few more that you have taken up as partners. Let's talk a little about your hiring culture and promotion and all that.
Yeah, I mean, very, very exciting actually that we have been able to bring on board. We brought on board three more partners, which is fantastic. And what I want to do is continue to build the firm. We've obviously been building over the last 4 years. That is a work in progress. You know, we've still got a long way to go. I still want to look at building other arms to this firm. At the moment, we're very much a corporate commercial firm, and we cover, you know, all aspects of the corporate commercial world. But now what we need to look at, I believe, is looking at things like litigation, setting up a litigation department. I also think we need to look at maybe insolvency practice. We also maybe look at forensics, we maybe even look at fiduciary services, we may look at company secretarial services. All these other options are out there.
Yeah.
And that's really something that gets me out of bed every day, you know, exciting stuff to look forward to grow and build.
And for a young lawyer who would like to join the team, what are those few things that you look for?
As a young lawyer, what we offer them is I hope a culture here of professionalism, one at which they are going to be given phenomenal opportunities to learn, to build their careers, to be encouraged, and that's where we come in to mentor them and make sure that they're on the right track and that they can, you know, reach and realize their aspirations. One of the things that ENS is very good at is looking after the associates and provides them, you know, with trips to South Africa, for example, where all the associates from all the offices around ENS, they all gather and they have a nice weekend together with their families as well. So it's a huge opportunity and excitement for them to be able to do that.
Oh, I see. I actually have friends here who travel a lot. I think your firm employs the people who travel the most around here.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. As you probably know, you know, ENS is one law firm. Yeah. We're not a network,
yeah,
as such. So, of all the offices, we have 7 different countries that we cover. And there's opportunity for associates to travel between the offices if they want to go on a secondment for 3 months, 6 months to another office. You know, we can set that up, we can arrange that and set that up. And yeah, they do get the opportunity to travel. You're right. I think it's quite exciting. I think it's quite appealing to them.
Yeah. So in addition to law and charities, what else do you do?
So certainly in my younger days, I used to play a lot of sport, and I was lucky enough to be selected for the Kenya hockey side, and I spent a year playing with the Kenya hockey team, and we travelled to India, played in a tournament over there, and we didn't do terribly well, but it was an experience, and to play sport at that level was fantastic. I also play a lot of tennis, and I've entered the Kenya Open Championships a few times, and I won the men's doubles championships.
Who are you playing
2
with?
years, right? so 1 year I was playing with James Alako, who's also big in the tennis world here. And 1 year I was playing with a Ugandan chap called Stephen Kasigwa, and so that was great. And my other passion is sailing, and I took up sailing a little bit later on in my career, but had the opportunity to sail in the World Championships, which was held down in Kilifi.
How much Swahili do you speak?
I'm relatively fluent in Swahili, but it's very much Nairobi-based Swahili. But I did have an interesting time down at the Kilifi Championships, where I was approached by one of the local radio stations and the presenter there, and he said to me, "Can I interview you?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, you can." And he said to me, "Can I speak to you in Swahili?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, that's no problem." Anyway, he started off speaking to me in coastal Swahili, and I couldn't understand a word of what he was saying. I said, "No, stop. And then he said, one of the questions he asked me, and I was sailing in that competition with an Australian, and he said to me, "Do you think you're going to have any language issues?" So I was saying, no, he's Australian, we all speak English, that's fine.
Yeah.
Well, I promise you, when we got out on the water, it was a completely different language he was speaking to mine. Yeah. So we did have a language problem. But that was fun.
Now you know better.
Yes, exactly.
I've noticed you have a lot of art around your office. What informs the art you display?
Yeah, what we decided to do when we established this office and went through the fit out was what sort of art would we display, and what we've tried to do is take art from different countries that ENS has offices in.
I see.
So, for example, we've got one room that is set up for West Africa. We've got a piece there from Ghana.
Yeah.
We've got another room that's set up for Mauritius, is dedicated to them, and we've got other rooms set up for the different countries. So you would have seen the room next door. We've got a picture there of Nelson Mandela, for example, obviously South Africa. So that's what informed us,
I see.
and it's been quite fun setting it up.
Is it a global standard for ENS or?
It's not. It's very much the Kenya office, and I know that when we have visitors from the other offices coming here, they always enjoy seeing their room with their stuff in it. Yeah.
All right, we've come to the end of the show with Nigel Shaw. So look at the camera and say, "Kwikwan Wakili."
Kwikwan Wakili. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.